What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi back with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking a little NFL. How about that? NFL is back, and we are very excited. It's going to be interesting. No preseason, so we're going to see how this goes. Sheets, right off the bat, what are we doing on this Showdown slate to try? Is there something that jumps out as a differentiator, maybe?
Let's do something. Let's do something first.
Okay.
So with Showdown slates, right? Remember, it's an animal completely different than anything else. Sort of. You only have a certain amount of items to choose from, right? And you're competing presumably against a whole bunch of people. So the way DFS works, obviously, with GPPs is you would like to be as different as you can, yet preserving, some kind of chance to win, right? So, but you need to start with the concept of what can I play that makes sense that maybe nobody else has, okay? And one thing, I guess we could go back and forth with little tips on like what you can do. The first thing that, again, people are kind of onto this now, but it's almost always a good idea to leave money on the table in Showdown slates. Just because so many people, I don't know how many anymore, but a lot of people run these optimizers, run whatever, and they'll max out their salary. And even the casuals will go and say, ooh, do I really want to take this guy when I can really max out my salary? So one way to automatically be different, not automatically, but one way you could try to be different is to leave salary on the table. But then there are other people that go too far. Like they'll leave like 5,000 on the table or something like that. And sure, you're going to be different. And you know what? You're going to come in 500,000. You know what I mean? You'll be all by yourself in 500,000 place. So you have to be able to strike that balance between taking reasonable plays and leaving money on the table. So that was my first thing. And the other thing I would say is that, try your best, whether you're scripting or hand building, to have your lineups be, I don't want to say tell a story in the easiest way, but have them make sense to themselves. You know what I mean? Like, don't take like, I don't know, 3 running backs from the same team. You know what I mean? Like, for example, try your best to correlate each lineup so that at least if something happens that you want to happen, then it cashes. You know what I mean? You don't want to say, boy, I really hope that, I'll take a stand on this stupid wide receiver, and then take 4 other wide receivers from the same team. You know what I mean? So I guess those are my 2 main bits of advice on Showdown is make sure that each lineup, whether it be by scripting or by hand building, that tells a consistent story, and also leave money on the table such that you can be a little bit different than other people and yet, make sure at least you have a reasonable chance to be in contention.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Completely. And looking at things tonight, it's gonna be tough to differentiate, and it's different on different sites. Obviously, FanDuel is a little bit different with the flattened out thing. So like one way you can get different on FanDuel just right off the bat is not playing Mahomes as your MVP. And I think that the guy who I would lean towards over there is mostly going to be David Johnson. I think David Johnson, there's a lot of this is where real narrative actually does matter to me. So I'll take this one. I'm kind of sorry this game is not on Sunday because this is one of my strong takes for the year. David Johnson is going to have a monster season. And it's not so much that David Johnson is so incredible, although I do love David Johnson, but after the trade that they had, to have to get rid of Hopkins and to make that move, the coach needs him to have a big year just to save his job. Literally. In addition to just winning, they need that to happen. They can't even just win because they've been winning in previous years. So you're going to look – I'm taking that narrative and going a lot of David Johnson and a lot of Will Fuller because that's the guys who you need basically to save your job after you get rid of the second or third best wide receiver in the NFL. So that's what I'm doing.
You think David Johnson's going to be like going to catch some passes this year, just be kind of like that guy that he was a few years, or at least close?
Yeah.
He's going to try to be that guy?
Yeah. But my only problem with him, though, is that I also, on tonight's Showdown part of it, is that I want to play Duke Johnson also.
Right.
Kind of situation where I'd want to play Duke Johnson. So it's sort of messing with me a little bit that I'm just figuring out what to do with that because I think Duke Johnson in a pass catching role coming from behind, but at the same time, is that going to go to David Johnson or is that going to go to Duke Johnson? And I think the game script will have them in that situation. So we just have to figure that one out. I guess that's where I'm at. I'll bring up my screen in just a minute. I'm doing my final.
Well, let's talk about what I just said. Let's talk about what I just said then. So I guess, is it smart for the first thing you should do is to not play both Duke Johnson and David Johnson in the same lineup?
You can do it though on today's slate. Like it's on a Showdown slate. Obviously, you can't do it on the real slate, but like Showdown slate, yeah, you can absolutely do it. So I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Well, who else from Houston? So let's talk about it. So DeAndre Hopkins is gone, right? So it's interesting to see what happens with these I don't say secondary receivers, but these wide receiver twos that get thrown into wide receiver one roles, right? So what do you find is like typically happens? Because what we usually do with these kind of like good wide receiver twos is we say, okay, we're going to keep playing these guys because the other team is going to lock in or focus on the wide receiver one. So these wide receiver twos can I don't say run rampant, but have like much better opportunities to do stuff. Quarterback's going to find them. But now when these wide receiver twos get put into wide receiver one roles, maybe it's not so easy to say, okay, now he's going to get all the targets. So let's treat him as a wide receiver one because it's just kind of a different role. So like, is Will Fuller like technically now the wide receiver one of Houston? So like, if so, is he someone, you know what I mean? What do you think of that? And who's going to be the wide receiver two now that's going to be probably getting the second most options?
Yeah, I mean, well, Brandon Cooks is the obvious guy, assuming
okay.
And you could argue that they sort of kind of like, I could see this going really badly for them, but I could also see it going well. They kind of need a possession receiver in there somewhere. I would say that Randall Cobb would be the guy who they'd sort of hope for being that kind of a guy. But you've got Cooks and Fuller. They actually don't have like a bad, like, Kenny Stills as a fourth. They have like a decent depth there. So I would be sprinkling in guys like Kenny Stills in your lineups tonight. I'd be sprinkling in, well, I mean, Cobb and Cooks are legitimate strong plays that are going to be fairly high owned, but not like crazy in the 20s. But I would go to take some shots on Kenny Stills, take a shot on a really cheap Draftkings Kiki Cutie in case he catches one pass. Literally, just hope he catches one big pass. That can win you a tournament on these kind of slates. So, but the priorities for the wide receivers overall, Fuller and Hill are going to be. Hill's actually going to be the most popular, I think, even at the higher price. But Fuller is still going to be the guy who I'm going to have just an insane amount of exposure to. Actually, not projected to be quite as highly owned on DraftKings as I would have thought. And then you mix in the Cobb, Cooks, and then you throw in one lineup with a Stills and one lineup or a couple lineups with the Stills and then one lineup with a QT or something.
That's kind of an interesting dynamic to have like Cooks and Fuller as like co-wide receivers. You know what I mean? Like they're both like pretty big deep threats.
Right.
It's very interesting. I'm very curious to see what becomes of it because Watson loves to freaking heave that ball too. So
yes.
I don't know. I don't want to get too strayed away from this particular slate that we're talking about, but getting back into NFL, thinking about football in general, I think that could be an interesting. Not that they wouldn't prefer to have Hopkins. I mean, obviously Hopkins is the man, but to have a lineup where you have Fuller and Cooks both running vertical makes it. I don't know. Makes it an interesting team. So maybe I don't know. Like if you want to be different, maybe you maybe play Cooks instead of Fuller.
Yeah, I think that's one way to go. I don't think you're going to get that much. I actually think Cooks is going to have ownership, and I don't think it's going to be that much different than Fuller's. I think it'll be similar, basically the same probably. I like Fuller's home run hitting upside more, but I mean Cooks has that too. It's just Fuller's better.
So you want to have fun. So what do you think of the game? Like you want to try to develop a narrative for the game because it seems as though the logical thing to think about is that it's going to be a high scoring game. There's KC scores 1 billion points and Houston is on the comeback. Hopefully getting fantasy points for the wide receivers and Watson on the comeback, right?
Right. That's exactly what I think you're hoping for, and I think that I'm starting to think. I think Watson might be the better play between the two quarterbacks tonight. I also think this Clyde Edwards, I don't want to do his name, however, this kid is going to be incredible, and they're going to run a little bit.
So is he a toss tonight?
What? What did you say?
So is he a throw out tonight? Is he a fade tonight?
No, I mean, let's see. I mean, I actually don't know that. Like, on FanDuel, I think he'll be owned, but I don't think he's going to be like out of control. I actually don't think David Johnson's going to be that highly owned either. So, this doesn't make any sense. Actually, the projections are probably just flawed. I think avoiding Tyreek Hill would be a good way to play these tournaments. That's what I would start with, because I just think he's going to be the crazy chalk, and he's got the most volatile situation of everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what we do, and just play, the KC side. We play Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and we play the kicker, and then we stack up Houston side of it, and maybe include one of the weird guys.
Yeah, my initial build on DraftKings didn't have Mahomes. It actually did the opposite of, not the opposite of what you said, but sort of what you said. It had Hill, but no Mahomes, and Helaire and the kicker. that's
right.
That was my first attempt. And it also threw in the Texans defense. So we're gonna see. So Helaire, like you said, he's a rookie who where did he go to college? Do you remember?
I'm on top of my head right now.
I'm the worst.
I'm overloaded.
I'm the worst. So, but again, I'm curious to see if what kind of work they give him. What kind of work they give any of these guys in their first week.
Oh, you mean the first week? Yeah. So with a somewhat volatile situation, I agree. I don't think that I think it's likely this kid gets plenty of carries though. I just have the feeling that he's going to, and that's just where I'm at right now. I'm not saying it's a lock or anything, but I do like him a ton. I think that, again, differentiating at running back, though, you can play Duke Johnson at low ownership. You can throw in a Darwin Thompson lineup. People who have been with the Chiefs, with all these other guys, maybe he gets a few extra snaps and catches a few passes. I mean, look, he might get 5 fantasy points, but at 1K, that might be enough. You know what I mean?
What are some of the
more obvious play?
Who?
Darrell Williams is the guy who could get like 7 fantasy points tonight, but he's 1.8K on DraftKings.
Dude, this is brutal because
I lost your sheets. We're losing you.
There's been nothing. I mean, is this okay? So we got to really be mad scientists. So is this one of those weird situations where everybody's kind of out of shape, and then if KC is up in like the third quarter by like 28 points, like Kelsey just comes out of the game and Ricky Seals-Jones comes in and gets a couple of catches? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I
don't know if we can count on that kind of a blowout. Like, it is the first game, and yeah, that the other guys might be rusty, but so might the Chiefs be.
Or maybe not even give him full snaps. Somebody like Kelsey.
I mean, I have some Kelsey, but I'm not like, it's not, I didn't sit here. We've named a lot of players, and I haven't brought up Kelsey's name yet. So I don't think you need to play. So you can fade him. Like, I mean, he's going to be high owned. You can fade him for sure.
Well, my point was, I didn't mean to play him. I meant that something like Ricky Seals-Jones at like 2,400 as like the backup tight end or something like that, in case in case Kelsey doesn't get a full run.
Yeah. So I hear you. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
so is this guy still in play, Hardman? The guy that he was like the hero last year, right?
He's absolutely in play, and that's the things that you just have a lot of receivers to choose from, which also lends itself again to, while Tyreek Hill may break open with one play at really high ownership, do we really want him? Do we need him? I don't know if we do.
When you make a great point, because again, when you talk about GPPs, and this is basically GPP, cubed, right? Because I mean, it's like that much more variant. Because it's a million people with not too many things to choose from. Is that for the same reason that you want to take kind of a low-owned Tyreek Hill in a big 12-game GPP when you have other great values that are going to be taking ownership, because he's got the upside of, always going 8 for 200, you know what I mean? Or whatever. He does have a lot of volatility. So when you're playing a showdown slate where he's going to be really, really high owned, I mean, maybe he only goes 6 for 70 or something like that. And that doesn't win it at 10,400.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. You can see I shared my screen. I'm just going through some of my builds right now. I mean, these might change later because I'm going to add.
Oh, listen to me. This can't lose. Who is going to be playing 3 D Johnsons in the same lineup? It looks like it's actually D Robinson, but it looks like 3 D Johnsons right in a row.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, is actually specifically trying to play them together to try and get a little different here. But I think this would be the normal thing to try, more likely. Okay. And Robinson, what do we got him at right now? I believe he's projected to have like a few carries at least. So, oh no, Williams. I'm sorry, that's supposed to be Williams, not Robinson.
And this is what happens. This is why football is different than hockey, man. Like hockey, you're never going to get these guys confused because they all have like weird names. Here, everybody's Williams, Johnson, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Well, I actually like this build in terms of the way that like the game flow is.
So wait, so Sammy Watkins is still on the team too?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, they have a million.
Welcome back, football. I mean.
No, this would have been a hard one to play Sunday, like on a Sunday slate. I think it would have been, I would have avoided the Chiefs, which I never do for the most part on Sunday if I played this week. But I would have been all over Houston if I played this week. You know what I mean?
What you probably do is play Mahomes naked and run it back with all the Houston guys.
I actually think that it's more the running back, because the problem was like, I don't, maybe they're not going to, I just don't see like in the first game, especially like given all the situation, like, they're up 3 touchdowns late. Like, are they going to be or 2 touchdowns or whatever? Are they going to be throwing the ball as much? Feels like they'd try and grind it out. They also want to see what they have in this kid, try and play a little bit of this new style they've been talking about. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what I was thinking anyway.
I mean, I'd like to say the same thing. Listen, this is the same thing I said before the first NBA slate after the restart. Okay. It's this slate, in addition to, honestly, I hate to say this, but the first main slate, you probably shouldn't be playing, okay? But we're all going to play it anyway. I mean, but there's just so much uncertainty that, I mean, what I would do is really just try to go low owned. I mean, that's just the best you're going to do. You know, there's just so much variance in week 1 in general. And a week 1 with no preseason and God knows if these guys are in any shape, or the lack of information coming out because of COVID. Also, it's not to mention, you know, you certainly have to watch to see for late scratches. I don't even know what any of the protocols are for what's going on.
Yeah,
but it's
a war, man. My first real NFL slate. I'm just gonna say for Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't think I can go crazy on this one. But I certainly am excited to have the NFL back, and should be a good time, man. Hopefully everything goes well and everybody stays safe.
Oh, I'm gonna say something for those of you who are watching. Now, if you've made it this far, listen, make sure that any of you that play any kind of volume at all ever, make sure you check your tickets, especially on Draftkings or FanDuel too. And make sure that if you have them for like tonight's slate somehow, that you use them. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you were thinking of not playing tonight. That'd be a mistake. And I actually didn't realize it. I went into my lobby and I saw I had like 3 tickets for this Showdown slate.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
And it's just basically free money. You know what I mean? Or not free. You probably earned it in some way. You know what I mean? Right. But don't forget about that. Don't leave free money laying on the table.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Guys, we look forward to bringing you some real NFL content. We'll be back with more baseball stuff tomorrow. Also, for Sheets, I'm Bobby saying good luck tonight in your showdowns.